Salam Al-Marayati, President of the Muslim Public Affairs Council, is with me now. Salam, thanks for coming in. The strategy from ISIS seems to be to try and widen the gulf between Muslims and non-Muslims, so that for people in Europe, when they see a refugee, they equate that refugee with a terrorist. And for Muslims, when they, are living in Europe, they experience essentially Islamophobia, prejudice, bigotry. This strategy, if you judge by the political reaction to some degree, seems to be working.
Well, exactly, and I think we as American Muslims or Muslims in the West are fighting both xenophobia on the one hand and fighting ISIS on the other hand in terms of their ideology. So we're right in the middle in terms of having an answer for both, and really what we're talking about is opposite sides of the same coin. They both have an ideology of hate, they both want to see a religious war, they both want to widen that gap, that gulf, as you said, of misunderstanding between the West and the Muslim world. We, the moderates in the West of the Muslim communities, are saying no to hate, that we need to bridge that gulf, and that we need to offer solutions in dealing both with xenophobia and the ideology of ISIS.
One of the strongest arguments you could make, I guess, is, equating refugees with terrorists would be, this is exactly what ISIS wants. Why doesn't that seem to resonate as much as it should?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, politicians like to use now tweets to offer policy recommendations when they're not really policy recommendations. If you want to stop the refugees from coming from Syria, then you got to deal with the Syrian conflict. You have to stop supporting Russia and its bombardment of Aleppo and Syrian towns and villages. You have to stop the dictator from prosecuting a war against humanity in Syria. You have to deal with that situation so that there are no refugees coming from there. The refugees want to go back home.
Sure.
And when you start talking about a ban on Muslims, just, this case in Germany, this guy had false documents. They're going to say they're not Muslim. I mean, how are our security authorities going to know who's a Muslim and who's not? They don't know the difference between a Persian Muslim and a Persian Jew, or an Egyptian Copt or an Egyptian Muslim. So, people don't know what they're talking about when they start resorting to these kinds of slogans.
Germany seems to be a particular target here right now for ISIS, simply because it has taken in so many refugees, and that is so sort of, the antithesis of what ISIS actually wants. ISIS doesn't want these countries taking in these refugees, which is why Germany is the target right now.
Well, Germany is definitely a target by ISIS, like many Western countries, because ISIS wants to launch a war between Islam and the West. And they will then send individuals, and unfortunately you have individual isolated incidents, lone wolves. And they're lone wolves because we in the West, the Muslim communities in the West, have rejected the ISIS ideology and rejected the Al-Qaeda ideology. And so they go on the internet and social media to recruit these individuals. So we also have to look at how we have been pushing back against that ideology. And what we need then for these individuals is community-led intervention programs.
But this is a question, like, everyone keeps asking what more can be done. The Muslim community, especially in the United States and in Europe, they're asked to speak out against these attacks, and they've done that. But I get the sense that there is a real fear, especially in the United States, because there's been such a backlash over the last couple of months against minorities and Muslims in this country, that they're now scared to speak out.
Well, no, we're not scared.
No?
I mean, I'm not scared.
But surely there is a fear there, though, isn't there?
There are going to be hate crimes, definitely, and there are going to be situations like there are hate crimes against any community, and we have to work with the authorities, with law enforcement, with the FBI to go after those that are going to commit hate crimes against any community, whether it's Jewish, Christian, African American, Hispanic, Japanese American. So we actually are standing on the shoulders of those people that have worked for pluralism in America, and we feel confident that we have a plan for integrating Islam and Muslims into American pluralism. That's number one. Number two, it requires a partnership between communities and law enforcement to deal with these situations. And when people say, well, you need to speak out more, we have been speaking out, but rarely do we have the platform.
Sometimes it's hard to be heard.
It's hard to be heard, but at the same time, people have to listen.
Yeah, that's the other part of the equation.
Yes.
Salam, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great to talk with you. Thank you.